Thanks, Willie. How's everybody? I brought my poems in Darth Vader folder. It's professional. It's hard to follow Mr. William West Coppedge. This is about the 5th or 6th time we have read together in the past few years. It's getting to become like a circus tour. But I too would like to thank him for reading with me again, and also the Arts Council for putting this on, and the Porch for having us, and Erica and Creedy for effectively running my career. That's right. It's hard to find good help, you know. So both me and Willie are Mississippi River boys, him being from Greenville, Mississippi, me being from Louisiana, New Orleans. And I thought I'd start off with this poem to kind of commemorate our shared love of that dirty river. This is called The River Is In Us. The river is in us, but easily we forget how quiet she is there. Mouth open to the sea, how easy we forget her dance through the fields, and how quiet she can be through the seasons of our lives. She dances through the fields of cotton, corn, and rice. The seasons of our lives pull back and forth like the tides. Cotton, corn, and rice are planted in the earth for a time. Back and forth with the tides, we are dissolved from the inside. Each of us are planted in the earth for a time, with the river inside us, mouths open to the sea. It's kind of based off a T.S. Eliot quote. This next poem, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for braving the blizzard of 11 coming out. I know it hindered us greatly. And all of my northern friends that are here have been laughing profusely, calling us suckers for getting 2 days off of this, but I'm freaking out, all right? So I thought I'd read a poem that was a winter poem. I have a winter poem. This is about, juice.
More juice in the back.
Sorry, I'm a low reader. Anyway, this is a poem called Mistletoe Harvest with Shotguns. Think of my father when I read this. The winter trees were bare, but mistletoe hung high and green in the bitter pecans. In the kitchen doorway none was hung, so Grandma asked us to take our new shotguns and shoot some down for her. The fields were brown. The pasture grass broke crisp beneath our feet. One tree stood against the gray horizon, and Papa aimed high in its crown. The sweet, oiled sound of the gun echoed across hayfields. Shattered branches and debris snowed down, burned. Birdshot coaxed that choking fruit. What winter yields is small but blessed. The proud hunters returned. What once hung bold and green against the hush brings kisses each Christmas and shells in the brush. True story. We're hillbillies. Me and Willie have talked a lot about kind of the New South, well, the Old South, which is the Old South to us, which is technically the New South, which is becoming new again. It's the Neo-New South, and, I kind of come from, my family had a lot of farming type folks in it, so, we noticed when they stopped growing cotton, started growing corn as well. These next two poems are kind of odes to the agricultural life, so this first one's called Counting Dust Devils Early Season. They grow when fields are cleared in the heat, in turn rows where men stand searching the skies for rain. They are stamped into being by the suck of air, left when bare feet leave the earth, rising tiny at the heels of children. Children chase the big ones, wisps of swirling dust, then grow into men who look skyward. They want to see if they can be lifted high from the fields, to see if there is strength enough to rise from that solid earth where they were planted and raised. This next one's kind of a companion piece. It's called Crop Dusting Late Season. Along the wingtips, the spray moved in spiral waves, circled on the drafts. I felt it sprinkle my arms, the chemicals in my eyes and nose reminding me of season's end. The leaves turned brown overnight, and white bowls opened, novas exploding against velveteen husks. In late autumn, split fourfold and raised to the sun, they offer prayers in an old religion. So there we have farming covered. I'm a city boy at heart, but my family are complete maniacs. My dad's a bit of a wild. Y'all ever seen that show on History Channel, Swamp People? That's it. Yeah. So this next poem is about me and my brother, a small child being raised by this man. It's called The Frog Kings of Bayou Lafourche. We danced in the heat and the mud was greasy, filmy from the decaying bodies of animals we would never know, animals that were too small to know. We were two princes trapped in small and awkward bodies. We learned the swamp secrets, the way crawfish dug backwards, lived backwards, the way water moccasins squirmed and slithered up the net poles, the way they twisted and slid under our rubber boots, the way Papa laughed, delighted about it, about us. Two princes, he'd say, two princes. We were safe then, like a baby rattler in a mason jar, safe from everything but ourselves, trying to remember not to bite our tails, those embryonic leftovers, those forgotten appendages that allowed us to swim in brown water, swim, then hop, then run and fly. We had no golden plates, no silver chalice, no silk sheets. We were ready to be thrown across the plywood floors, to burst in a cloud of talcum, to turn to men, to inherit that cathedral, ceiling open to the reddening sky. It's time for a refresher. I'll tell you a story. This next poem needs a story. A friend of my wife's, co-worker of hers, her husband was cleaning out his deer stand and fell out of it, and was paralyzed and lived for a little while longer and then died. And you know, that got me thinking kind of about a few things, and I wrote this poem for him. It's called The Deer Stand. That's a terrible story.
Is it the weather?
Dude, I don't know. It's just this poem. I don't know. Why do I even read this poem? I don't know. I don't really have a lot of chipper stuff, so we're just gonna go with this. Okay, The Deer Stand. 1. The lower door is shut. It hides the bloated, decaying hips, the atrophied legs, the lower, disproportionate half. I see faces and faces and faces. They come in and stare down at my powdered face, the slack lips. There is a darkness around, and they see it too. It is in their faces, in their dress socks, and in my suit. No one can see my spine. If God in heaven set it aligned and told me to walk, I doubt I'd remember how. 2. I landed on my knees like a God-fearing man. My back went limp and I crumpled face first in a bed of red ants. Turning my head to the sky, I blinked, the stingers out of my eyes. I saw the deer stand's ladder going up, up, up. I called for you then. I couldn't see through the burning. Knees planted and bent like stalks in the summer heat. 3. There is not so much to tell. I lived, I was broken, I lived some more. I died. From the sky to the earth and back again. Does it make a difference that I hunted and ate and killed, was eaten and lived? We are ants on the face of God, scratching and grasping, asking for more, for more. It's kind of sad. Now let's have a divorce poem. Sorry. This poem's called Photograph of My Mother at Woodland Lake. She would die if she knew I was doing this. She is at the stove in the camper kitchen, in front of the screen door, late autumn. In pajamas, she makes a breakfast of eggs and deer sausage. She does not like to be photographed. The look on her face is half hidden by her red hair, which is long for the last time in her life. This is 3 months before the divorce. She cut it away, like many other lost things. I will never know her as she was then, a girl at the stove in the camper kitchen, the years like leaves not yet fallen. I'd like to give a shout out to my mom for babysitting my children tonight, so I'm giving this reading. And also to JD for that shot of whiskey. As I said, I'm from New Orleans. Just went back there last weekend and got a good dose of the land of milk and honey. So I thought I'd read a couple of or whatever else you want. You can get anything you want there. I thought I'd read a couple of poems that remind me of home. This first one's called The Swing. A black and white documentary. Grainy live girls swinging out of Bourbon Street on a wood plank. Hung from gold chains, singing in faux French to the stuffed shirt tourists and prohibitionists. The footage colors the lights to gray. I am too young to have seen the Marmalade girls, those swinging street girls. The real swing is gone, for safety. The girls replaced with mechanical legs jutting in and out of the wall on a hydraulic pump. Only on celluloid does that magic still breathe, the gin flowing out of doors into the open, a time when safe was a word used cautiously, like a curse. This next one is about a major natural disaster. I don't know why poetry has to be about all the bad stuff. I just don't write anything very lively, I'm afraid. But my wife and I's apartment building back home was almost completely destroyed in Katrina just while we left. And I wrote this poem shortly after seeing that because the scene that I think that I'm going to try to describe here is very odd and rare. It's called Looking into a Third-Story Apartment. On the table, a glass, wine half drunk, placemats folded over from the wind, the centerpiece still stands full of ruffled lilies, things the wall has shielded. Among the downed pines, my own windows are shattered. A storm twisted and peeled back the studs of fiberglass, but the kitchen of my upstairs neighbors held together. Refrigerator magnets prop up a child's report card. The pictures on the inner wall only slightly skewed. The sun glints off the tangled blue aluminum siding, and I realize I do not know them, this third floor family who left in a rush, too hurried for dishes, these wine drinkers and your child. I realize that some walls never fall down. The damnedest thing, really. It's like that scene in Ghostbusters where he tries to pull the tablecloth off the table and he goes, and the flowers are still standing. Well, that's the only thing I think of when I saw that. 2 of the 4 walls were missing, but the flowers were still standing. Interesting. These next 2 poems I'm going to read just recently came out. They were published in a new local journal called the Swamp Lily Review. My My good friends Jan Ryder Newman and Jess Ferguson edit that online publication, so I thought I'd read a couple of them. This first poem from that issue is called The Gentle Knock. When Jim fell off the roof, she heard a thud and looked through the shades and saw the ladder gently rocking. She thought he'd just gone up and failed to see his hand grasping the bottom rung, knocking, knocking, calling for help that would not come. They're also kind of take this next poem. It's called A Lot Like Venus. It's for Hillary. I'll explain in a minute. The sun, low set across New Mexico, the beads of white sands turn gold beneath the thick clouds, a lot like Venus. But here in amber hues there are no swirling storms, no pressures endlessly competing. For desert shrubs are here as well, and you and I and the mountains here will always see us under a breathable sky. No, we are not lost in any foreign place. Across the basin, dark shores blur my vision. I feel your breath, and it calls me closer home. So that poem was for Hillary Gerbert, who's in the audience tonight. And so is this next one. Stole these two poem ideas from him. He's also a fine poet, but also a photographer. And both of these poems are based off photographs of his. This next one is called Jugs on the Shelf. Beneath Atlanta, in a dugout basement, dirt roof held up by pine timbers, an old woman places a floodlight on the packed soil. In the backlit glow there are jugs on a shelf. My husband, she said, seeing my curiosity. He would never get rid of these, just kept stacking them up down here. Glass and plastic, some stoppered, with corks, some taped closed. They seal the forgotten air, time capsules of smells and breath. I take them down now and then and try to catch his scent. Sometimes I think I smell him. She takes one down and opens it, one by one, till he's gone. So, thanks for your pictures, Hillary. This next poem comes from my first transatlantic airplane ride that I took about a year ago. My wife and I went over to Europe. And sort of kind of disconcerting if you think about how planes actually work and how they could easily stop working. Even though I grew up in Louisiana, I've seen the Gulf of Mexico a million times, but I had never seen the ocean quite like I did from the plane. So this poem's called On Seeing the Ocean from 35,000 Feet. This could be our water, all the rivers and streams and bayous of home. This could be where we all end up, in the green-blue washing churn. It is black now after nightfall, and from this height it could be asphalt or mud. But some sense of it is there, to swallow us if we fall. I am on my way to the old country my forefathers left, but I am thinking of my father, who was watching my children play by the waters of the brown Beth River. I ask him through the glass if we are happiest at such distances, or if sons and fathers are bound by the waters that surround them, and he answers with a wave to me that stirs the darkened clouds beneath the wings. Every poet's got to have some good dad poems. I guess I'm going to finish with a few. I'm going to read a poem now that a friend asked me to read, and I said no. But then I was worried that I wouldn't have enough poems to fill up my time, so I threw it in just for accident. But I'm going to read it. It's called Alone in the Briar Thicket. 1. I had woven myself in so carefully, and with the lost ball deftly retrieved, I turned to find myself caught. The deer thicket swallowed me beneath the thorn shadows. I yelled at first, then screamed for hours. When my voice went numb, I hung there sobbing, and the small birds came back to their nests. 2. Why are they called king snakes, Papa? He showed me, under a pin oak on the banks of Woolen Lake, how the rattlesnake, half hidden in the king's mouth, the rattle still shivering, rustled the leaves. 2. Why did the snake bite his own tail? The baby rattlesnake would not eat, he said. The jar where it was kept was full of dead shiners, a spot of blood near the end of its yellow tail, where the rattle would have formed. Every day, a decline witnessed at such a young age. 4. Somehow, Papa heard me crying. I glimpsed him through the trees running across the field. When he found me, his touch was softer than usual, pulling my shirt free, twisting my ankles from the wiry brambles. Could not walk, I had hung there so long. My head against his chest, he carried me to the house. So, I'd like to thank everybody once again for coming out. This last poem I'm going to read is also on the double broadside that Willie mentioned earlier. It's called Night Fishing. If anybody's interested in any of that stuff, just have a talk with me or Erica or Willie, and we'll be glad to hook you up. Yeah, I don't think this poem needs any introduction. It's just pretty simple. So I'll finish with that, and I'd like to thank everybody for coming out once again, braving the elements. I went to bed with my Boy Scouts on, blue and yellow bandana around my neck, fully dressed and waiting for midnight. Papa had it all planned, and there would be no time for dressing. In the dark, my mother woke me. They sat and drank coffee, the kitchen light betraying the time of night. Could have been early morning, could have been a slow wake, brought on by a late night phone call. Bad news requires coffee and time, but tonight was for fishing. I had grown enough for this ritual, to go out late, fish for perch with my father. Spotlights hung from the boat. Green water kept its secrets beneath, but Papa said that the bugs would bring the fish to the light. They would come to glut, and in taking them, I would earn my own place, that a boy must learn to be like his father, at least for a little while. Thank you.
Give it up once more for Willie and Jay. Yeah, I really want to thank y'all for coming out tonight, and thanks to the American Press for coming out too. And on March 4th, definitely come back for Daryl Bork. He's going to be reading here at 7. And like I said, there's limited edition broadsides of some of the poems you heard tonight for sale, so see us if you want some. Thanks again.